On today's video, we're diving in, discussing some of the differences between the Lowrider S from Harley and also the Indian Motorcycle Sport Chief. So these motorcycles are direct competitors in that sport cruiser lineup. So if you're looking at both of these motorcycles, hopefully today we can give you some information that might sway you one way or the other if you're looking at these bikes. And I'm just gonna go ahead and say, both bikes are awesome bikes, so really you can't go wrong with either one. But we're going to dive in talking about some of the key differences that make these bikes different and some of the things that kind of keep them the same. All right guys, like and subscribe, let's get into this. So we're going to start looking at the Harley Davidson Lowrider S first. You can see it starts out at around 18.2, and the Indian Motorcycles Chief is around the same. Once we get to that, we'll kind of discuss that as well. But both bikes are going to be priced almost the same. Now, some of the key things that keep these bikes in that same lineup, that give them that sporty theme, is going to be these club style fairings that both of them have. The one on the Lowrider S is a little bit smaller, and neither one of these really offer any wind protection very much at all. It's just kind of there for looks, and I think it does make it look really damn good. Kind of fills out the front of the bike a little bit, kind of hides all of that, the cables and stuff that are up around the bars, and makes it look really nice and fine-tuned. So both bikes have this. So looking at some of the styling that the Lowrider S has, I mean, both bikes are going to be blacked out where you want them to be blacked out, and they're going to be nice color contrasted everywhere else. And with the Lowrider S, you can get a couple different color options. Now with the Lowrider S, you can get a couple different color options, and this is the 2023 model. Now they do have the 2024 model out, which has, I think they call it a billiard gray, but we're going to dive into that in a little bit and show you some videos that actually have that. But for the 2023 model, you have this vivid black or the white sand pearl, which kind of is like a military sand brown color, which both of these look really good. Other than that, the styling keeps with that black theme. Nice blacked out forks up front, the inverted forks, and both bikes have these. We'll discuss those a little bit more here in a minute, but a blacked out engine, blacked out exhaust, a lot of black accents that keep this styling really aggressive and with that club style theme that this bike is going for. But overall, both bikes have awesome styling. Now looking at the Sport Chief, it is the same. I mean, even more blacked out than that of the Lowrider S. This thing is just matte black to the core. You can get it in a bunch of different colors. Black smoke. We have ghost white metallic smoke, which is an awesome color. I really like that one. You got a granite gray, also really cool looking color. Sunset red smoke. There you go. Got one of those classic Indian colors. And then you got smoky quartz. But I think if I was going to get one of these, it'd be between the ghost white metallic smoke and the black smoke. But you just see how they carry that really dark, aggressive styling across both motorcycle lineups, which is key for these bikes being head-to-head competitors. You see the quarter fairing that this thing has, keeping with that club style look, and everything else is just blacked out. All the way from the engine, the tank, the exhaust, everything is blacked out on this. So really nice styling across both motorcycles. Now heading into the performance of these bikes. Looking at the engine on the Lowrider S, we do have a Milwaukee 8 117, which puts out quite a bit of power. Has 103 horsepower and 125 foot-pounds of torque. So a really powerful engine. And when I rode both of these bikes, the Lowrider S did seem a little bit more powerful. And it's going to have that nice Harley Davidson sound to it, which everybody has loved over the years. And these Milwaukee 8s are no different. They still retain that nice Harley Davidson sound. And there you go. This is probably the most powerful bike out of the two. But nonetheless, the Chief is a really good bike as well. This bike seemed really punchy, had a nice exhaust note to it. You throw some nice Vance & Hines or any other kind of pipe on it, a Sawicki pipe or something like that, this bike is going to be finished off and looking great. It has electronic sequential port fuel injection and the 2-into-2 offset shotgun mufflers on this thing. So around the city, you're probably going to be getting around 47 mpgs, which isn't too bad for a motor of this size, and you're probably going to be on that throttle a lot, guys, because this is a fun bike. It is aimed at having fun, really sporty feel, and it's going to handle like a dream with those inverted forks, and this is just a great overall bike. Now, coming over to the Sport Chief, you're looking at a 116 cubic inch engine with 122 foot-pounds of torque, so a little bit less, not much less than that of the Lowrider S, but the horsepower difference here, you're only getting 79 horsepower with the Sport Chief. So a little bit of a slower engine than that of the Lowrider S, but nonetheless, this Indian Chief feels sporty, it feels punchy, it has a little bit more updated electronics on it that I think make this one feel just as powerful as the Lowrider S. But this Indian Chief runs a little bit smoother, and I think that's where you get a more powerful feel from, because it's not got the vibrations that the Harley Davidson has. So looking at the weight on the Indian, we have 665 pounds, and that is a pretty hefty motorcycle for a pretty small mid-size cruiser, keeping that sport weight. I mean, this thing is going to be going pretty quick through the twisties and stuff like that. Seat height of 27 inches. So looking at the Sport Chief, we have a 4-gallon tank. We have 5.9 inches of ground clearance and a lean angle of 29.5 degrees. So not too bad there. I mean, the exhausts are pretty tucked up. Honestly, the only thing you're going to have to worry about hitting is potentially one of those foot pegs, but it's not that bad. 27-inch seat height. So for a total of a wheelbase of 64.6, and you know, there you go. Has a lot of good specs that make this thing great for going through those twisties and making it a fun bike overall. Looking at the Lowrider S, we have a wheelbase of 63.6, so a little bit short. It's like an inch shorter than that of the Chief. We have the same seat height at 27 inches and ground clearance of 5.7, and the weight coming in at 650 pounds. So pretty much the same weight and everything as that Sport Chief. Once again, going right at each other with these motorcycles. Okay, on the Lowrider S, we have a lean angle of 31.3 degrees, so not bad there. Pretty much the same as on the Chief. Honestly, with the Lowrider S, you can make some sharper turns. Everything is kind of tucked up a little bit more, so it kind of keeps it from dragging. But nonetheless, both these bikes are going to be great for getting out there. Try to feel like you're on a sport bike, but you're actually on a cruiser just having a lot of fun. So that's the performance, and this is just some of the basic things I wanted to point out. So looking at the Lowrider S's suspension. So these are both sport tuned bikes. So you want them to have really good suspension. So on the front fork of the Lowrider S, you have a single cartridge, 43mm inverted aluminum fork, and it's triple rate spring. So this does have a stiffer feel. It's going to be able to cut through those corners and stuff without your suspension feeling so plush, and it's going to dip and dive out of those turns. This is going to make you feel planted, and it's not so stiff that it's going to ruin the ride, but is a good solid sport tuned fork. For the rear shock on here, we have a hidden free piston coilover monoshock, 56mm stroke hydraulic preload adjustment, so you can adjust this a little bit. And once again, it's a really nice feeling shock. It still has that soft tail feel at the end of the day, but it's going to have more of that sport tuning feel to it than some of the other soft tail models have. When it comes to brakes, on the Lowrider S, you have front and rear split 7-spoke floating rotors, 4-piston fixed, 2-piston floating rear. So on the front, you have a 4-piston front and a 2-piston rear for your brake caliper. So the brakes on both these bikes work great. I'm not going to go into it too much on there because you're getting some good brakes on these bikes because they're sport tuned. They know you need to be able to stop very quickly on these bikes and be able to stop all that horsepower that you're putting down. For the suspension on the Chief, you have a 4.2 diameter or 43mm. Once again, same as the Lowrider S front suspension. You get KYB inverted telescoping fork. So you really have some nice sport tuned suspension on this bike. And on the rear, you have dual Fox piggyback reservoir shocks. So high quality suspension on the rear here really makes this Sport Chief feel super high quality and keeping that sport feel. And you see that Fox logo, you know it's high quality suspension, KYB as well. And then for the brakes, you have Brembo brakes front and rear on this. You have a 320 millimeter semi-floating rotor, 4-piston caliper in the front, 2-piston rear, 300 millimeter floating rotor in the back. So you only have a single one on the back, but this is a really good bike, stops really clean, and it feels high quality at the end of the day. So let's get into some features that make these bikes different. So like we said, the Sport Chief has a lot of upgraded electronic features, has a 4-inch touchscreen, ride command, infotainment center on the front of this bike in that little instrument cluster. And this is just huge for Indian, because Indian in the past has been kind of behind the curve on being able to incorporate some electronic features. So this one has a 1-year free trial of ride command, which is great for this bike. And it has live weather, traffic, it has intuitive destination search, and it has that GPS capability on here as well. So great feature if you're wanting to look at a high quality motorcycle and still being able to give you some of those features that a lot of European bikes have and not so much the American made bikes. Really like the way they incorporated a lot more technology this year into their bikes. Another thing that it obviously has ABS, bunch of different ride modes. So one cool thing about the Sport Chief is you have your regular Chief fuel map, which is okay. It still feels a little bit sluggish, I would say, compared to the normal Lowrider S. But once you hit it in the sport mode, that thing takes off. You can really feel the difference in the fuel mapping, and it just feels great. Has USB charging port, it has keyless ignition, which is huge, and it has rear cylinder deactivation. So out there on the highway, once you get to a certain speed, and I don't know the actual parameters of the cylinder deactivation, but that right there is going to save on fuel economy big time. And it's going to make it a lot better bike for going the distance. It's going to save on that fuel economy. So there you go. That is the Chief, and once again, has a lot of really modern technology that makes this bike really great. Now, looking at the Lowrider S, now it does have all LEDs, and the Sport Chief has LEDs as well. I forgot to mention that. LEDs all the way around, but the gauge on the Lowrider S is a little lacking. Now, in the past, they did have the gauges on the fuel tank. Well, for 2023, they moved them up on the bars, kind of like what the Sport Chief has. So going head to head again, it's a 4-inch analog tachometer with a digital speedometer in the middle. It displays what gear you're in. It has your odometer, fuel level, clock, trip, and range indicator, but it doesn't have much more than that. It has ABS just like the Sport Chief, but other than that, this thing keeps it pretty basic. It doesn't have all of the features and the technology that the Sport Chief has. So if you're looking at keeping it basic, the Lowrider S might be for you, and a lot of people love the simplicity of a Harley Davidson motorcycle, so this keeps with that theme. Or you can go over to the Indian Sport Chief and you have all that brand new technology packed in to that nice, well-rounded package. So two different motorcycles in that aspect, but both get the job done at the end of the day. But it's whatever type of style you're going for, this is going to be able to give it to you. So when we're looking at pricing for the Vivid Black MSRP, it's around $18,200, and if you go for like the Billiard Gray, it's going to be around almost $19,000, so a little bit cheaper than that of the Sport Chief. Now, when we go to the Sport Chief and look at pricing, they start at $20,000. So I've been seeing these in dealerships going for around $22,000 in the configuration they're in, but you're getting more equipment on these. You're getting better suspension. You're getting name brand brakes. You're getting a lot of different features that kind of put the Indian in a different category as far as performance and name brand performance items. But That's not saying the Lowrider S doesn't compete head-to-head with the Indian. It's just that the parts and components are a little bit different. So there is the pricing. I would say you're probably going to get out the door with both of these bikes around the same, because Harley Davidson does upprice their bikes quite a bit. Indian seems to stay with their MSRP a little bit better, but Harley Davidson's nonetheless hold their value. So that is one thing to look at as well. Indians have been retaining their value pretty well, but not as much as Harley Davidson's. So if you're looking at that aspect, definitely go with the Harley Davidson, but both bikes are great. I would say, and we didn't talk about it, but the attention to detail on both of these bikes. I would say that the Lowrider S is a little bit better in the detail department. If I'm talking about fine-tuned, it just looks pieced together well. It looks just a little bit more high quality. I'm definitely going with the Lowrider S, because on the Indian, I think the fuel tank, the spacing between the tank and the engine and the frame just looks a little off. It looks like they designed the frame and then they didn't take into account the way the gas tank was going to be sitting on it. And I think that makes it look a little off. It's like something's missing. But on the Lowrider S, everything looks great on it. Everything looks like it's supposed to be in its place. The seat is right up on the gas tank. There's no gap like there is on the Indian. There's a little bit of a gap there on that Indian. And everything else just looks in place. And there's no frills. There's nothing that's too fancy on these bikes. They just look good altogether. But I would say if we're going for attention to detail, I think Harley Davidson beat out Indian on this one. Right, this is the stock Harley Davidson Lowrider S exhaust sound. Sounds just about like any other V-twin stock exhaust motorcycle. I'll look at the Indian Chief stock exhaust. Right, honestly, the Chief sounds a little bit better stock than the Lowrider S does. A little bit deeper sound than Lowrider S has. Look at a Sawicki exhaust on the Harley Davidson Lowrider. Let's look at a Freedom Performance exhaust on the Indian Chief. Overall, my opinion on both bikes is if you're looking for a great, powerful motorcycle that is fine-tuned, you like the attention to detail, it's got plenty of power, you want that Harley Davidson name brand, then go with the Lowrider S. It has a ton of following in the aftermarket world, and it's just a great bike. It's going to hold its value. If you want to resell it later on, go with that Lowrider S. It's going to be the best bang for your buck, and it may be a little bit cheaper than the Chief if you're buying this at your dealership. Maybe you could pick up a 23 model heading into 24 and get it a little bit at a discounted rate. But if you want a motorcycle that is more aligned with the more sporty feel, it's got features like the KYB suspension, it has the Fox shocks, it has the heads-up display that is just way more technology packed into this bike, and you like that modern feel of the electronics, then go with that Indian. It's going to be the way to go. But at the end of the day, both bikes are great. Guys, if you like this kind of videos, please hit that like and subscribe button. There's going to be a lot more videos rolling out. But nonetheless, these bikes are great. You guys could pick up either one and be happy with either one of them. Guys, thanks for watching this video.